Alright, Shalom, Makim. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha, Kudash. I'd like to give double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. I'd like to say Shalom to the elect, let's teach His word on true faith and sincerity. And today, I just want to get into a lesson, on pretty much hoping to be kept, and to believe in the miracles. Because despite Esau Edom, this devil, he's blessed with the sword, his technology. This thing got nanobots to nuclear missiles. Yet those things won't prevail against the elect, man. That's why we hope to be a part of the number, because those are the ones that were destined to be kept and be delivered by our Lord Yahweh Shai. Matter of fact, let's start off with this in the book of 2 Ezra 9 and verse 7. It reads, "And everyone that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith whereby ye have believed." So it's a particular number of spirits, that's really destined to be saved. And you see the driving force behind it, from faith and by those works, man. From the prophets, teaching, and even the believers believing. That's part of the works of the Most High when you read St. John, the 6th chapter. It says, "Shall be preserved from the said perils." So it says this is really a commandment. The elect is going to be preserved, is going to be kept from these said perils. And what entails these things? The famine, the teeth of wild beasts, these power outages, which that's going to bring forth the lack of water. A lot of these cities got these pumps that pump water throughout the city. That's going to bring forth the lack of water. And refrigeration systems, that's going to contribute to the famine, going out, that's going to contribute to the famine, rotten meat. And everything else that's going to bring forth distress and anguish and death. That's the said perils. But it said the Lord is going to keep the elect. It says, and shall see my salvation in my land and within my borders, for I have sanctified them for me from the beginning. See? And the Lord is going to keep the elect in a spectacular way. So when you ain't got no choice but to acknowledge, the Lord dealing with them. He talks about that on 2 Ezra 16. Then shall you know who am I told that these things unfolded, motherfuckers dying left and right. There's only certain spirits that's being maintained. It's a famine. Somehow your face you gained weight during the famine. That could possibly be happening, man. The things that's written in the scriptures talks about rent the 4 time, rent 5 learning. So there's plenty of stories of famine or a drought, and the Lord maintained His men. Matter of fact, let's get this in the book of Job. Because at the end of the day, miracles are going to happen. And it ain't got to be all mystical, and it can be as well. From the Lord having food materialize before your face, to somebody that got the chip bringing you food, man. That's a miracle too. The Lord set them up to get the chip. The motherfucker going to the grocery store to get you something to eat. That's part of the miracles as well, man. With all the results, somehow you still here. And the source is Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai. This is the book of Job 5 and verse 19. It says, "He shall deliver thee in 6 troubles." Yeah, in 7, there shall no evil touch thee. See, it said, he shall deliver thee. So going back to the source is Yahweh Shema Shai. You know, the story of the drowning man, you know, he was drowning. He cried to the Lord. They had a boat pass by. He said, no, the Lord gonna come give me. A helicopter came. He said, no, the Lord gonna come give him somebody, you know, the story, somebody else came. He denied him. He said, the Lord gonna come get him. So once he died, he questioned the Lord, like, why you ain't come save me? He said, motherfucker, I went to you 3 times, man. The Lord ain't gotta come and float down. Well, he can manipulate, he can manipulate the elements, the creation, to work out in your favor, man. And that's what the Lord is going to do. He's doing it now. Just this place being destroyed, this is in our favor, man. No, I said in the 7 shall no evil touch thee, because that's concerning the destruction of Babylon the Great, which is America. World War III. So we got to be out of here when that plague come forth. So the Lord's going to protect us during the famine and these other things. But when that destruction comes, we got to be out here, man. We're going to get front row seats to watch this. You know, courtside seats. It says, in famine he shall redeem thee from death, and in war from the power of the sword. See, as you can see, he's going to do that. And the Lord have a plethora of ways to do it, man. As I mentioned earlier, the things that were written aforetime, Romans the 15th chapter. All these scenarios and situations that have played out and was recorded, it wasn't meant for us to read and turn it into a coloring book, or, you know, nowadays it's a cartoon. And you have Veggie Tales with just some powerful points in it, you know. But how they will put it into an animation is, you know, the way it's not no sense of urgency that comes with it. But these things are going to be applied today, you know. The 3 holy children, Daniel in the lion's den, Peter locked up in a prison, and we can read the latter end of those men that they was kept. The Lord kept them, you know. It said, thou shalt be hid from the scourge of the tongue, neither shalt thou be afraid of destruction when it comes. See, and they show you the Lord is going to put a certain spirit on us, man. And it begins now. Through this doctrine, we're being made hard. You know, and we're actually anticipating and looking forward to these evils to come upon the planet Earth. Matter of fact, because it said we're not going to be afraid. I think it's Psalms 112. Bear with me. Right, Psalms 112 and verse 7. It reads, he shall not be afraid of evil titans. See? We really embrace hearing that America is going to be destroyed. We embrace that the famine is coming, because we understand the results. You know, the Lord is going to violently remove this place so we can live, man. The kingdom of heaven can be established. Having that breath of fresh air can once again be a literal saying, one of many, you know. It says, he shall not be afraid of evil titans. His heart is fixed, trusting in the Lord. See, that's our defense. It is Yahweh Shema Shai. We trust in the Lord. It's because his precepts concerning these plagues. Then his precepts concerning being saved from these plagues, as we started off with in 2 Ezra, the 9th chapter. Certain spirits are going to be delivered from the said perils. This is what we hope to be, you know. That's our hope, to play that part, to be killed, to be delivered, man. And it's a precept when the famine comes, you experiencing eating with, you haven't ate in a few days, but guess what? It's a precept that's going to spark a miracle. The 4 lepers. See, it was a great famine. And the Lord had it where they stumbled up a plethora of resources, man. How much more in this time? It says his heart is established. He shall not be afraid until he see his desires upon his enemies. See, man, show you that we're hoping the destruction, man. We embrace that these evils will come upon the planet Earth, because it's going to be an effort for our enemies to be overthrown, man. That's why Habakkuk said, in wrath, remember mercy. He didn't say, Lord, push the wrath off, Now he said, it may just keep me while you do your damage. That's our prayer, the Lord to keep us, think of the vengeance that shall be at the end. So going back to Job 5 and verse 22, it says, at destruction and famine thou shalt laugh. Yeah, because we're going to see our enemies, they're going to be fucked up. Just once again, to show you what type of state we're going to be in. If all this is going on and we able to laugh, it's going to be a genuine chuck. It's not going to be no fake. When the light come on, it's time for you to laugh. It's going to be a genuine thing. And it talks about that as well. In Proverbs, the 1st chapter, I will laugh at your calamity. The Lord is going to laugh through us. So that's, but just going back, what type of state we're going to be in if during the famine we're going to be able to laugh, and that's what we're going to be eating. However, the Lord see it, food can fall out the sky. The quail can fall from out the sky. The Lord can have the raven bring you food. Or as I mentioned, a nigga with the chick, she used to like you back in the day, but she got the chip and now she want to put, These things are going to unfold, man. These are the miracles of Yahweh Shema Shai. And the Lord is going to make it more and more extreme to the climax of the return of Yahweh Shai. That's going to be the top miracle. Lord sending forth Yahweh Shai, man, and delivering us from that trouble. It says, and the beasts of the field shall be at peace with thee. And guess what? Now, as we coming closer to the perfect day, we know that this right here, that the beasts of the field, that's a broad statement, man. From, of course, a literal beast, but now you got drones. If you go and look at the Russia-Ukraine war, it's fucking a dystopian. It's nothing but drones. You see drones and wires. You know what I mean? Using these different weapons, mechanical weaponry. This devil got nanobots and mechanical dogs, and so that beast, it ranges. Of course, we have zoo animals, but even the mechanical beasts in these times, and even the newly created beasts, you got to simply put it, Pokemon in a sense. When you read, I think that's Wisdom of Solomon 11, around verse 17 on down, talks about those beasts that shoot sparks, have those filthy scents. And that can also be those falling down them drones, and that can be under the category of them drones, the mechanical beasts and all that. It says It says, for thou shalt be in the league with the stones of the field, and the beasts of the field shall be at peace with thee. See? But that's gonna be Yahweh Shema Shai putting forth that covenant, man. Because they talk about Yahweh Shai being a prince of peace. Yahweh Shai is the one that's gonna, the one that has the power to put that forth, man. But this time we in, what those miracles is going to manifest, and we gonna need them, man. Especially in the time with this devil, he's blessed with the sword, got this technology. He's coming down with great wrath. He's desperate. Matter of fact, let's get this in the book of Psalm 31. Psalm 31 and 1 said, in thee, O Lord, do I put my trust. Let me never be put. It's like, let me never be ashamed. And that's what's going to take place with these people. That perplexity is going to unfold when you read St. Luke 21. It talks about that perplexity. Because ultimately they wasn't expecting the things to come upon the planet Earth. They were going to be consumed by it. And this doctrine is what's contributing to us not being ashamed, not being perplexed, and put to confusion. Because everything that's happening upon the planet Earth is according to our faith. Everything is according to the script, as we say in the spirit. That's life in existence. It's actually happening according to the script. Now we seeing what even the tiny hats are. We said the tiny hats, the least of the flock shall draw thee out. We actually seeing the tiny hats drag America, and really the rest of the world into World War III. But that's what according to what we believe and teach. Everything else that's going to lead to that destruction from the said perils we're going into, find that great financial failure, the microchip, which is the mark of the beast being implemented. These people don't have that on their calendar. They're not expecting these things to come about. That's why they're going to fall apart when they happen. As you can see, concerning the prayer of David, says, I put my trust in thee. Let me never be put to confusion. Deliver me in thy righteousness. It says, bow down thy ear to me. Deliver me speedily. For thou, my strong rock, for an house of defense to save me. See, because Yahweh Shema Shai is the source, man. He's the source. I said, the Lord ain't got to go mystical. He could do some mystical shit. Of course, Spirits talk about how even listen, he disappeared. Yahweh Shai fed the multitude two loaves. Even Yahweh Shai, he disappeared and went through the crowd. That the Lord is gonna do that. And then it's going to be just a scenario that's going to work out in your favor. That's going to be the miracle as well. It was a miracle, the Lord giving us this information. He fashioned a scenario where we came across this truth. But ultimately, the results is what? We're going to still be alive. You still hear the smoke clear, dust settle, literally. You still here. Why? Because the word. It says, for thou art my rock and my fortress. Therefore, for thy name's sake, lead me and guide me. See? And that's what Yahweh Shema Shai is going to do. He's going to lead us, make the proper decision. Some guy said, no, do this. He said something spiritual. Lord gonna give us the talent to pick up on things even more. But this is what, those miracles, man, is coming. Especially as things get more and more darker. for these people that hope is being taken away. They ain't gonna do nothing but lose it. Esau, he don't have no hope. That's why the next he don't think it's violence. So we gonna need Yahweh Shema Shai to keep us now. You know? So yeah, I hope this was edifying. Like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakha, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the elect. Let's teach word now. True faith and sincerity. Shalom.